Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT news. A massive development going down overnight with rumours emerging that TenZ may no longer be on Sentinels after the end of this season and when the World Championship concludes. The current rumour has it that Sassy and Pancada, who have been rumoured to even go back to Brazil, might well stay on Sentinels but bring Aspas from Loud along with them. That would then be replacing TenZ on the starting roster. Is this true? This may well not be the case at all. It's only rumours at the present time. TenZ even responds to it later on in the day. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Just firstly to mention real quick the conclusion on the Game Changer side. I did mention this watch party was going down in person here for version 1, which I thought was really cool. Every time I see stuff like this, I always think it's really cool what esports is able to put together. And in the end, version 1 got the victory in the America side. They took down the Complexity Game Changers team emphatically, to be honest, right? I mean, look at the scoreboards here. Fluorescent, like, again, it's basically a 2KD. But yeah, Bayern was 13-2, Haven was 13-4, and then it was 13-9. So pretty absurd, right? What, 39 rounds to, what is that, 15? I mean, yeah, that's pretty emphatic. In the European side, as expected, G2 goes and also got the victory. So the two expected teams got the job done. 3-1 over the FUT Esports female roster as well. And, well, actually, yeah, game 1 was pretty close, 14-12. And after that, bit of a back and forth before a domination on Haven, 13-3 to close out the series. There also was this that went down yesterday with a confirmation here, as we see, something is in the picture and officially confirming that he's on his way to Los Angeles. We've seen the teams over the last couple of days flying out there. Fnatic have arrived and, well, other teams are getting ready to go because Champions starts pretty damn soon. But yes, here's something. The visa, thankfully, has been secured because there were some talks from us as Tokyo. Something was like, he tweeted out an image of Tokyo, and then it turned out that he actually was still stuck in Singapore. He hadn't got the visa, but thankfully it's all good now, and he's on his way to Champions, and they might well be the closest threat that Fnatic have this tournament. Also, KC's coach, who did a great job subbing into the roster for the rest of the season. We saw that Scream had a few words to say for how things had gone down there a few days ago, but he actually confirms that he's been allowed to explore options for next season with his contract ending. So thought he did a very respectable job. Wants to, you know, be a coach, of course, but can still play if absolutely necessary, as we saw very well this past season. Before we get to the Sentinels 10 stuff, did want to mention the follow-up here from Leo Farrier. So it's always a tough job that Leo finds himself in because he doesn't make all the decisions at Riot in terms of what they're doing for especially the tier 2 scene, which has been causing a lot of controversy lately, but he is the spokesperson. And it's good that he is as transparent as he is. You don't get that quite often, right, with someone being as transparent, but you know, he's going to get a lot of flack. That's how it works, especially because he doesn't make all the calls, I imagine. It's you know, it's always difficult, but it's good that we have a guy like Leo who tries to be transparent. Now, whether all of what he says is not necessarily perfect. So the drama of yesterday, we talked about this guest slots, right? Now, you can argue whether the guest slot should be a thing, whether once you qualify into Partnership League, you should, like, that should be your slot. Once you've qualified, you should maybe be maintained, but and like another team should be relegated theoretically, but that's not how it works. It's a franchise league, it's a partnership league, so they choose, Riot, their partners, and if you're not one of their partners and aren't chosen to be a partner, and possibly they could choose the Guard over the coming years to be a partner and they could drop one of their other teams out. That's not out of the question, but currently that's not what it's looking like, and the Guards get to compete for 2 seasons and then disappear again. Now, Leo Farrier referred to this as a guest slot. Now, and people were really coming at his neck for this, and really it's just a matter of terminology. He could call it something else, and people wouldn't have cared so much. But people saw this guest slot thing as kind of like diminishing their team and their stature and their success to some degree. So he actually tweets about this again. Okay, we got to the point where you folks will be mad no matter what I say, which is kind of always true. Doesn't really matter what it is, like someone's always going to be angry. It's the way things work. This will be my last note on the topic. I'm not saying the Guard is a sinner in the story. I'm saying that's what we created the system for. Look at Gentlemates in EMEA. The team didn't exist 6 months ago. Now they qualified. Call it guest slots, visitor slots, ascension slots, non-partnered slots. Doesn't change the fact they qualify for a 2-year stint in the international leagues. Also doesn't make them less than. All 3 teams deserve to be with the best. They proved it by winning. They'll be treated like every other team while they're in the league, get the same support, get the same number of games, get the same opportunities. I guess some of you just don't like the idea of a partnership and permanent slots, which I think is pretty true. A lot of people don't like that idea in esports and don't feel like it's necessary. Every model has pros and cons, and but they remain confident this is the way to go. Wasn't a decision made on a whim. We have no plans to change it. And Leo definitely gets more flack than he probably deserves. When you're like the figurehead of being the spokesperson for Riot on this, you know, it's always a difficult job to do this stuff. But still, it's not like I think all the decisions they've made and he has made have been good, let's be honest. And Ludwig actually says in the replies as well, and you know, hits him with the hot ratio, I've been pushing for relegation of VCT teams or creating expansion teams to add true value to Ascension teams. When the guards comes in, crushes VCT teams and they're forced to descend again because the clock strikes midnight for Cinderella, it'll be incredibly silly, which is a really interesting perspective. Then let's say the guard come in, they absolutely kill it in the partnership league. Maybe they're the third, maybe they're the fourth best team in the Americas, and yet in 2 years' time, bye-bye, unlucky, you know, the guard, you did very well, but, you know, your time is up, basically, which, you know, it doesn't feel great. So even not just the Tier 2 scene has some questions, but also the way that interacts with the Tier 1 scene probably needs some work. But, I mean, look, Leo and co, they say they're working on it, so I guess we've got to trust them that they're going to make some good decisions, which they say that they're making. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt for the moment. Let's talk, though, about the Sentinels thing, because this has been a big talking point of the coming days. The big one really was going into the World Championship. The rumor had it, according to Rod/Breslau, that Aspas and Loud might be splitting. There's been some friction there. Aspas didn't travel back to Brazil with the team. He stayed in Los Angeles or something with his girlfriends. Now they're practicing with another player called Havoc, and basically it's going to be a disaster. Now, then there was a big rumor the other day that seemingly came from nowhere that NRG are looking to sign Aspas instead of Ardis, and all of the players on NRG said, no, this is not true. Like, I don't know why you're just making these things up. So that was what they said the other day, and then today we get another update, though, that actually some teams are interested in Aspas, and it was in this video where Sean Gares and Slasher talked about it, and this is the video that I wanted to mention for you guys. Couple of minutes here of Slasher discussing what he's heard with regard to the Aspas Loud situation and the big story really on Sentinels.
I am now going to add on from my previous report, which is completely accurate, onto this now information. What I have learned since is that Aspas had, because all of their contracts are up at the end of the year, that's one of the main issues is that Aspas went to the Loud organization to ask for a raise and for a renewed contract, and Loud would not renew his contract or give him the raise that he wanted to, which is where some of the frustration is coming from his side. Additionally, part of the contracts that Loud gives to their players forbid the individual players from signing with outside agents, which is the standard for not just all of professional sports, but all of esports too. Almost all of your favorite players and all of the big players across all the major esports have their own independent agents to act for the best interest of the players. But within the Loud contracts, Loud wants to act as both as the team and the agent for the players. However, Sentinels, I still think definitely is an organization that can be in play for Aspas. I have heard they have definitely potentially offered Aspas a major contract going forward, at least some from last year, and they are definitely interested in that for next year. So the NRG report is not true, but the Sentinels aspect definitely, yes, the NRG situation I believe is bullshit. The Sentinels aspect definitely is in play here. So I think next year Sentinels, all things can happen for Sentinels. I still think there is like 90% chance that Aspas is going to leave Loud next year, even though that, I think definitely to your point, that could decrease because of the reporting. Now they're going to come together and they're going to go on a run and they're going to win champions. Definitely possible. I think there's a 90 to 95% chance that TenZ is no longer going to be on Sentinels next year, either from the organization standpoint that they no longer want TenZ, or from TenZ's standpoint that he would rather leave and either be as a full-time content creator or streamer, or even try to put options as another team. And that would leave open a prime duelist position for someone like Aspas.
So Aspas supposedly asked loud for more money, they said no, a new contract, and then we get on to the NRG not interested thing, but it's the Sentinels thing. And I've mentioned this for the last few days. The rumour had it that, according to Slasher initially, and look, we don't know how valid this is going to be, and the team is going to deny it, but still, we haven't had this deny, we haven't had like the entire Sentinels team come out and say no, this is false, like we did for NRG, so maybe that's something to look at. But still, Slasher basically said that Aspas, Sassy and Pancada are boys, and they will probably want to team up next year. And the rumour was that potentially they'd go to Furia and do that, right? Another Brazilian team. The other option, though, is that Sassy Pancada stay on Sentinels and Aspas comes along. He's 90 to 95% sure TenZ isn't there. And this is the thing with TenZ. TenZ is a free agent at the end of this season, so he might want to stay on Sentinels. They don't have to keep him. They don't have to sign him again. But if Sentinels do want him to stay, TenZ doesn't have to. He's a free agent. He can walk wherever and take another offer. But this would be crazy if TenZ was no longer on Sentinels, and he reckons that it's, 10 to 1, 20 to 1 that this is happening, and TenZ is not going to be on that roster next season, and they're going another route, which would be really interesting if they decide that actually they want to get Aspas and build effectively a Brazilian core, because I think most people would have predicted that Sassy Pancada might leave and they, bring in, I don't know, Trent, or you try and get someone, try and poach someone. Probably the guards say no to that, but there's some options out there, Xander or whatever. You could build a new IGL and bring in some more players from North America, but still, apparently Sentinels have other ideas as it stands, and they will be making some decisions right now because they're out of champions. As soon as champions ends, things will get very spicy. So this is what Slasher believes, and look, the rumours that he's come up with so far in the Valorant ecosystem over the last couple of months haven't necessarily been ratified or confirmed yet, but we shall see, because I think there's, as I've said before, it's unlikely that there's a lot of smoke here without a significant amount of fire, and it's quite possible that this is going to be the case, especially given what we've talked about before with Sassy Pancada Aspas. Might be on Furia, but the other option was they could stay on Sentinels. Now, I don't believe there would be an issue here with the amount of players from certain regions. I think this used to be a thing where North American teams had to have 3 or 5 players from North America, but according to the rulebook, Brazil and the US are part of the same territory, because that's how it's described. So I don't think this actually matters anymore. I don't think they have to field 3 players from North America. I'm pretty sure they can basically do what they want as long as it's from the Americas. As long as they're signing players from the Americas and not imports, as they describe them as, from EMEA or the Pacific region, then this is fine. And there would be no problem at all with having the 3 Brazilians, or even 5 Brazilians, right? Who knows? Now, what would this mean for Sentinels? Just because TenZ has been a mega part of their branding, of their franchise, their partnership, team, or whatever, for the last several years, and for many, Sentinels and TenZ are somewhat synonymous, right? They're super tied. When you think of TenZ, you think of Sentinels, and often the other way around. This would probably be a massive hit, you've got to think, to Sentinels' brands, to their image. But look, if they believe this is going to take them to the top, then maybe this is a decision that they are heavily considering at the present time. So really intrigued to your thoughts. Do you think there's anything behind this? Especially when TenZ comes out and drops the, the cowboy hat emoji. Now, whether this means, Slasher's got no idea what he's talking about, or whether it just means I'm here for the ride, we don't really know. It's one emoji, read into it as you like. But TenZ did at least do some response. But as I say, it's not the same as what we saw with NRG when they were linked to Aspas, and they basically all said, yeah, this is not true, what are you talking about, within hours. But, and it wasn't Slasher who said that, it was another report coming out of the Brazilian side that is seemingly not the case. So I'm sure there'll be more reaction to this over the coming days, but I'm very much intrigued to your perspective in the comment section below, especially because George Geddes does the facepalm, which could either mean that this is not true, what are you talking about, Slasher, or it means, what are Sentinels thinking by making this decision? Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.